Let's now look at elasticity and revenue and see the relationship between those two items. Understanding our elasticity from a firm's perspective is actually very beneficial in determining what happens to revenue as we change our elasticity. So again, we're going to use the same price and quantity demand schedule that we have here, and this hasn't changed through that video series. If we're trying to calculate revenue, what we want to look at is the price and quantity. So revenue for a firm is how many units I sell and at what price I sell them. So at a price of $1, I sell 90 units. Or I'm sorry, at a price of $1, I sell 90 units, so I have $90 in revenue. At a price of $2, I sell 80 units, which means I have revenue of 160. So I'll stop here for a second. We will fill this out, but what I want to do is actually graph demand and revenue simultaneously so that you get an idea of what's going on. So just from before, this is the same graph that we graphed earlier. We have a straight line demand curve. Right below that, I'm going to graph a revenue curve that calculates total revenue depending on the quantity sold. All right, so I don't know the endpoints here by looking at our table, but we can actually think through it a little bit. I calculated, or I show it here. If I set it at a price of $10, I set the price so high, I'm actually not selling any units. So I have revenue of $0. Right? The price is so high that no one buys it, I'm not making any money. Again, I don't have it on the table, but you can think about if I had set a price of $0, I'm giving it away for free. I also don't have any revenue. So I'm going to color in those dots because those are our starting points. We talked about calculating revenue here. Right, so I'll put in So I'll fill these in as 75, 150, 225. I'll do 300 for that upper spot. So if I set a price of $1, I sell 90 of those units. I have $90 in revenue. And so that's about right there. So that's where those go to. If I set a price of $2, I'll sell 160 units, which looks to be about right there. So as you notice, I start to get this, I have a nice little relationship going. Let's jump down to the bottom. Again, we said if I set the price at $10, I'm not going to have any revenue. If I set a price of $9, I'll sell $90 worth of revenue. $9, I'll sell 10 units. Set a price of $8, I'll sell 20 of those units and we'll have $160. So at a price of $9, I'll sell 10 units and I'll sell them for $90. At a price of $8, I'll sell 20 units and $160. So again, you'll start to see this relationship building up here. So I'll fill this out relatively quickly. If you're not 100% sure of how to fill out a revenue table, it might be beneficial to review that before the quiz or the exam. Right in the middle, I have a price of $5. I'm selling 50 units, so I have a total revenue of $250. So right in the middle of our demand curve is the highest revenue point. We can graph that down. So you'll notice a relationship here that is actually given in every single straight line demand curve. At the unit elastic point, the price right in the middle, which we determined was 5, right, recall that that was the unit elastic point. That point actually corresponds with the highest revenue level. We maximize our revenue at the unit elastic point. In the inelastic region, we have increasing revenues. Again, think back, we said that at this bottom point, at a price of $0, when we're giving it away for free, we have no revenue. As we raise our price in the inelastic region, we're earning more and more revenue as we raise our price. Think back to what it means to be inelastic. It means that consumers are not responsive to the price. I can raise my price by a little bit, right? So that was a little change in price, a big change in quantity. I can raise my price a little bit and sell more. That's the relationship we have here. I raise my price a little bit, I can sell more, my revenue goes up. In the elastic region, it's the opposite case. In the upper portion, we say that that's the elastic region. At a price of $10, where it's set so high that nobody wants to buy it, I have $0 in revenue. However, if I start lowering my price, I can actually raise my revenue until I get to the unit elastic point. So those are two very different concepts and ideas to think about. Naturally, we want to say, our first instinct is if a business asks, how do I raise my revenue? A lot of people want to respond with, well, raise your price, you'll sell more products. If we're operating in the elastic region, that's actually the worst decision you can make. Say we were at this point here at a price of $6. If I raise my price to $7, I actually lose some revenue. I actually lose $30 by raising my price. So we can see going from 6 to 7 results in a decrease in revenue. As I continue to raise my price, I keep losing money. So when we're in the elastic region, it actually benefits us to raise our price. In the inelastic region, it benefits us, in the elastic region, it benefits us to lower our price, move towards the elastic point. In the inelastic region, we want to raise our price. We want to go from 1 to 2 to 3 and try to get a higher price. This is how elasticity relates to revenue. This is not necessarily true for profit, which we'll look at in a couple chapters. This is dealing strictly with revenue generated by the firm. If we're interested in just maximizing revenue, all we care about is maximizing revenue, we want to set a price at the unit elastic point right in the middle of our demand curve, which will result in the maximum point on our revenue curve that we could draw right below that. So this concludes the video series in terms of elasticities. We looked at price elasticity of demand, we discussed price elasticity of supply, cross-price elasticity, and income elasticity. We broke cross-price and income elasticities down and actually looked at the magnitudes to talk about whether goods were normal goods, inferior goods, substitutes, or complements. Then we moved into price elasticities at a single point, so a price point elasticity, and the midpoint method about how those are different. So if you have some free time, these usually take a little bit of time to practice, but practice makes perfect, especially when it comes to elasticities. So if you have questions, feel free to email me or post on a discussion board. Have a good night and good luck on your quiz this week.